Good evening or good afternoon. So, how is everyone today? There's a lot of sun out there. I'm going to have to close those blinds or pull myself over here out of the sunlight. Okay. Hello once again, people. You can't really tell what this light is going to be like until you start the video recording. So just bear with me as I try to get out of the sun, because it does affect the outcome of the video recording. Okay, that was another tape going in the background. And I'd like to welcome you once again to Omi's production studio. You've got your Omi here, live coming to you with another feature story. And this still seeing a lot of sunlight for some reason. Hold tight. All right, how's that? A lot better. Okay, let me also start off by saying once again, good afternoon, good evening, whatever your Eastern Standard Time may be. We're on Eastern Standard Time here. I am your host. My name is Omiinka. That is what I'm affectionately called online. Some call me Omi. I prefer Omi because Omi means teacher as well. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my journey as a writer. And some of you may have seen the cover of the book that I was circulating around on Facebook. And I do want all of my followers and friends to be affectionately involved with what I'm doing as a writer. I'm a poet by profession, an international poet. I've recited overseas on the party station on Mother's Day. So I make national history in going behind the Berlin walls and being able to sing and back up LaBouche as well as Joan Faulkner. So I'm an entertainer, so you can see a bit of that coming out periodically when I do my shows. I'm a character. Being a poet, you have to rhyme with everything and sing a song with everything. And as you notice, I'm always singing a song after a presentation. That's just a part of my character. And I make no apologies for it. I'm unapologetically Black. And that's the reason why I perform as I do, because I'm a soul sister. I got soul. And when you got soul and you carry not only a spirit but a soul, you're going to do things a little bit differently. Now, let me tell you about my journey as a writer. There are a number of self-publishers companies out there, and a number of those who actually are the big publishing agency who are asking you to take on your assignment and publish a book. I have had quite a few of them approach me. Matter of fact, I was on the phone with one of them today. Thank God for self-publishing. Had I not known that there was a way to self-publish through companies like Amazon, KDP, Kindle, Lulu, and also I think it's called Sharp. I wrote the name down. I know it's something to do with Sharp. I was introduced to that was a self-publishing advocate for individuals who want to self-publish. Now, I also wanted to say create space. I started out with Lulu.com and published my first book. of collection of poems called The Journey of the Class Agent. And initially, I wanted to have the audiobook to be a supplement, and I was giving that as a bonus. But then I later found that Lulu no longer published CDs, so they had to disallow those CDs or DVDs to be placed in the back of the book. But yet I still give it out as a demo, but I'm going to be republishing it as an actual glass master and have it in the case and have it as a supplement if you'd like to purchase the audio opposed to the book in a paperback form. Since then, they have come out with ebooks, and I am a firm reader of the Kindle, and I do collect books in the Kindle, and I go into Barnes and Noble and I read some of the books and stories in the Nook, and I do want to purchase those as well. I love reading. I go to bed reading, wake up reading, and I don't have any particular favorites. I do like poetry. I do sample other people's poetry and look at their style while I was trying to develop my own style. And you can see out on the YouTube, I do have a video where I was reciting poetry over in Germany. And for some reason, on that videotape, it only has me reciting two of the selection, but I do have the VHS with all of the 36 poems that were recited. And every one of these poems that I wrote were given to me from a meditation basis where I was going within myself from the right side of my brain. And whatever I had meditated on, it would pull from that. So most of these poems are comedically driven. And I am not a comedic student, but I've studied comedic with the Asara set. But a lot of it talks about Mayat and Mayat going to court with me, assisting me, and all this stuff just came up on the right side of the brain. And I'll get to that in a minute about writer's block and how to prevent that and how do you start your writing process. I use some unique tools in how I actually write my manuscript and poetry to be exact, not all of the manuscript. One manuscript I've written that started out to be a thesis that went on to be a controversial issue where I found myself traveling and lecturing to defend my hypothesis and my position on the topic. And I found that when I went to create a space, I had mapped out everything with the cover of my book, just being able to go to their tools and pull down the samples of their book and then upload a couple of my pictures to make the book complete. And with Create Space, I didn't even have to upload any pictures because the book met the requirement that I was looking for. And I thought I was on my way. Later on, last year, 2018, it was announced when I went on Creative Space that they had shipped everything over to Amazon and that our uploads were no longer there. And I had two books that were being displayed on Creative Space. And when I went to Amazon, I wasn't familiar with Amazon desktop nor their uploads. However, I was able to find pieces of my book, but the manuscript hadn't been uploaded yet, thank God. But the cover I had completed. I found that I had to redo the cover all over again, and I tried to upload the cover that I had saved from Creative Space, but I was not able to. But Creative Space somehow had the same layout that, um, well, Amazon had the same layout as Creative Space had. So I was able to revamp the book, but I still had to go to the back of the book and put my logo on it and upload my information. Now, that didn't bother me as much because I understand they're partners now, and I had no gripes about that. One thing I will say is that Creative Space will allow for me to upload audio, DVDs, as well as CDs, and do my CDs as well, which were on tape. So I'm really sorry to have lost Creative Space. I don't know what Amazon and KDP holds for me. Right now, I'm having a very difficult time. For some reason, I had to scan a hard copy of my books because my computer crashed, and I had all of it saved on my hard drive. So I had to scan everything back to a PDF file and upload it on the desktop. And I later found out that I had to transfer that over to Adobe Word. Now, I wish that I had saved it on my Google's, what do you call it? My Google's hard drive, where the Google will actually save everything that you write. I wish I had to put it there. Then it would have been a lot easier for me to put it in a Word so that I could go back and finish with my actual where I was actually going through and editing it. So the biggest problem, I uploaded it. I thought it was on there, but it didn't upload all the pages because each page had to be separated through scanning. And I had to scan each one separately, and then I had to go back and convert the PDF file into a Word document. However, it wasn't in a zip file. So I thought that I should zip file all of those pages over to a zip file, then upload it. I found out it only uploaded some of the pages and not all of it. So I'm still busy working on that obstacle. Now, I do know is my Google Drive that you can actually save documents on. I'm going to go back and try my hand at Google and try to upload all of the documents on that Google Drive and then transfer them over to the editing composition. Now, I enjoy writing. I write for the fun of it. I write blogs. I have many blogs that are out there on my website. Um, I even have actual series that I put together on a platform of dealing with when you actually are doing audios. And I started this one project where it is called the Lily Pod, and it is my collection of a group of after-school students who literally wanted to be in my after-school science program, the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We were commissioned to go on a mission to Mars at Purdue University, the sixth graders. And I was to head up all the sixth graders to take them there. All the other teachers backed out. They didn't think that it would benefit the children, but I knew better because I had an early start of being introduced to science by Dr. Vernon Smith, where he introduced us to science and we participated in the science fair and I won second place. So I wanted these inner city children to be exposed to learning something about science, and maybe one of them would catch on and want to enroll in my after school class. And lo and behold, I had all boys enroll. I think it was 6 boys and 1 girl. And I thought they would all drop out. But the biggest problem was getting them home and their mother picking them up. So I vowed to take them home. And every Friday we would go out for a meal. And it turned out that one of the young children's mother worked at Fridays, so we can go in there and get discounts and be able to feed everyone. So these children were excited about this class. His mother decided to be one of my aides in the class, and we decided we needed outfits. We needed to look like space um, carriers who were getting ready to do a mission to Mars. So we went out to Kmart, and bought ourselves a nice set of Star Wars outfits that looked like we were going on a mission to Mars, because we knew we were going to Purdue University and we wanted to look the part at least. So the whole year was to be spent learning about all of the stations in the mission to Mars, and each child had to select their own station, data entry, research, medicine, keeping engineering, watching our fluids in our ship. So each one of them found a position and stationed themselves at the station in my classroom. We had to mimic this whole thing before we went to Purdue University to carry out the mission. And I said all that to say that I created an actual audio series on these children and all of the oppositions that they're faced with in school. One was a Muslim girl who was faced with her jihad outfit and having to go through the ridiculing and the bullying of her wearing this garb, and also talking about the after school program and what types of problems we ran into in the program. And number one was the boys didn't want any girls there, and they thought the mission to Mars was only for boys and not girls. So there was a ton of dialogue in that conversation about why girls should not join the STEMS program. And once I convinced them that it was okay and that I was a girl and that I was a science buff when I was coming up, I collected animal teeth and put them in a jar, submitted them in the science contest, and won second place. Um, they then allowed the girls to come in and they welcomed them. And I showed them that it was okay for girls to learn something about a male driven, dominated profession. I said all that to say that that is out on the internet now as a series. And anyone that's listened to the Lily Pod with the after school students will know that I created many, many characters, and each one of them had a name and a character. Uh, and each one of them was distinguished in their enunciation and how they talk. I changed my voice up quite a bit to create all those characters. I found that I loved it. And each week I would go back and do another and another, and until I had a little small series. It's still out there on the internet, and I can't think of the platform it's under right now, but it'll come to me soon. And I found that I was good at staging these characters, and I next wanted to create an actual sketch of each one of them. I used to be an artist. I used to draw and paint, and I don't know why that went away from me, but I think if I try hard, it'll come back. So I want to sit down myself and scribble out the characteristics and sculpture the face out of these children the way I saw them and the way I still remember them. Because I was fortunate, these boys took a chance on me. They enrolled in the after school program, something that the principal said would never happen. They stayed with it for both semesters until we finished the whole program so that they could help me head up I think we had over 200 sixth graders, and we all had to have chaperones. And we also, the other children who did not participate in the after school program, they were somewhat lost about all of the stations and what you did on the mission to Mars. But yet, my six boys and the one girl, the seventh person, they all knew about this whole mission because they studied it every day after school. I planted in them the desire to want to go into Mars and to go to NASA. And I told them to make sure your mothers give you a vacation to NASA. You can go visit that place. You can even go to Huntsville and go visit parts of the space there. So I found that writing that created a series for me. I now have a series, a collection of series to talk about those children, and they will all know who they are because I will describe each one of them descriptively how they appear to me. That was one writing project. Now, as I told you, the 36 poems were given to me as restitution, as a therapy. So I wrote those poems for women who were going through a struggle, for military women who were enrolled in the military, as well as for the German women who found themselves during 9/11 having to leave their jobs and having the base shut down. So it was a lot of suffrage going on around 2000 and what was this? I guess it was 2002, if I'm not mistaken, or 2001. It was a lot of suffering going on for the German on the economy as well as for the military women who had enrolled in the military. So these poems were addressing their issues. So I have to have a motive for writing. And I just don't write flowery poems. I write epics about stories, deaths, a reawakening, So I'm a storyteller. Hate me if you want to, but I'm a storyteller. I'm a folklore storyteller and a folklore singer. Believe it or not, Black person coming into folklore. I love folklore. I love a cappella. But the reason I'm doing this videotape is to tell you about uh, those who choose to be a self-publisher. What are the pros and cons? And should you self-publish your first book? I think, how can I put it? Let me do the pros and cons. The pros of self-publishing mean you have control. It means that you can determine what wider distribution you're going to distribute, because some publishing agencies are limited to their distribution and they don't have worldwide publishing. Some do. It just so happened that looking at Amazon, they have the worldwide distribution along with the KDP. So the other thing is most people say, I want to get my own ISB number because I want that book to be published under my name and not under some publisher's name. But you must remember, the advantages of that is that they can house your book and produce it on demand, whereas you may not have a place in your house to store those books. They can also track how many books have been sold and track what your income is, give you an income statement for your taxes, and also provide for you an actual office space where you can have all of these documentations housed. So having their name on your ISBN number may be a blessing in disguise, because now if you need books and you need to quickly have them sent out, they can ship them out. Are you going to sit down and ship the books out and keep record of everything? No, when you're first publisher, I don't think so. You're busy getting into your craft and learning your style of writing, and you don't have time for all the busy parts of it. Not to mention, if you want to become incorporated, become a business, or even a publishing agency. If you're thinking about writing many more books, you might want to become a publishing agency or publishing press house and begin to set yourself up where you not only edit and write your books, but you open yourself up to the public to offer them an option of assisting and aiding them in publishing their book. Now, first of all, you have to know what style. You have to pick a style or venue of where you want your book to be housed. And it wasn't very hard for me to pick that. I had a venue of poetry and families because I write about families and I know I'm going to be writing about families until the cows come home. And I'm not a novel writer, but I do have a novel that's in the oven. And I've been working on that for the past 10 years. And I love stories similar to the stories where you hear the magical, the Lord of the Ring type of stories. I love fantasies like that. So I have written a piece where a young boy goes on a journey and he gets initiated. And he goes through the full process of being initiated through the African traditional society. And he learns all of the foundational things, such as understanding all of the orishas, what do they do, what are their characteristics, and then also getting a understanding of who is the God of the Black race, who is the man that stands in for Jesus and who was at the right hand of God. So we put it all in a comical way, in a comical manner, to teach the foundation and the traditions and the rituals of our ancestors. I want so much for our young people to have a more simplistic way of understanding that the ancestors are not complex and they're not dead people, but they are really people who have gone back into our spirit and are reborn again through our next child that's delivered. So they never go anywhere. They stay around us. Their spirits do. Their bodies may turn to dust and go back to the ground, but they're still yet around us. So in simplifying this whole traditional African base for my son, I had to put it in the form of a storytelling. And I taught and introduced him to various things like the right hand of Ifa, understanding when you're initiated who's on your head, on your father's side and your mother's side, understanding what the Orishas do. Are they angels? Do they come to your rescue? So this is a whole new thing for Black people and learning about the biblical and learning about our concept of an African creation story, which was never told to me as a child, nor my children. So I get to tell this African creation story where it comes to life for the children. And all of the Orishas become individual who were deities and came down to earth and asked God to allow them to be deified. And then in the end, it talks about how everyone wants to become an actual elder and then an ancestor and then deified. So ultimately, there is a hope for us. It's not just death and that's the end. So in this story, I'm a bit of a creative person and I have an imagination, a vivid imagination. But in this case, I only have to call on my imagination when I reproduce the characters, and the characters are already written for me. All I need to do is take each one of them and give their identity and create it in the form of a comic book and introduce these children to all of these seven rishas, and then look at the 256 odus. What do they all mean? And how do you teach all of this way of life to a child who don't have time to sit, who everything is on the computer? So this story is going to be big, and it will be a series, and it will go on for eternity, I believe, and I want my legacy to pick it up and carry it out. I can see the characters vividly in my head. It makes me want to become an artist again and create from each one of these characters. And our logo for the lily pod is the Godhead, or the Godware, the God with the big head full of wisdom. And you know it's got to be an afro full of wisdom. And then they can go from not only just looking at the logo, but they can look at the clothes and the dress wear, where I begin to teach them to cover up and to wear clothes that exemplify their body and not something sagging all the time or too tight. So this is my way of getting the textile back into those youth hands so they can regroup again and think about what would God do in a case like this. So as I look at, should we self-publish or should we allow a publishing agency to publish? What are the pros and cons? Just as I told you, you can run into a problem with your document being uploaded because it has to be formatted. And you have a section where they ask you if you want your page to bleed over and blend, or do you want to cut it off? You have to make those decisions right up front. And you have to be very, very careful about the stock of paper you're selecting, even from the color of white or bonded paper, cream color. And then you have to look at the fonts. Which fonts do you want to use? And do you want to use calligraphy? And some people have found out they can use calligraphy, and they can use calligraphy and write some of their own alphabets where they are actually producing these alphabets and they're not typed in from a font other than where the calligraphy is written and you can duplicate them. Now, the illustration, do you want to illustrate everything? Or do you want to upload pictures? Or do you want to pay an illustrator to come out and illustrate your book? Now, for the first time around, I think you should take advantage of the templates that are out there already until you get a style and an understanding for what it is you're trying to do. You can save yourself some money. And even on the ISBN number, normally that's $125 from Bauer. And if you decide that I'm a self-publisher, I want to do this all the way, I want to do my own ISBN number, then you're out of $125, opposed to Amazon and Lulu giving you one of their ISBN numbers for free. Okay? Now, I know that there is another company, and I keep calling it Sparks, and they actually charge $80 for their ISBN number. And if you go online to Bowers, it's going to be all of $125. Now, remember, you got to copyright this manuscript also. So you got to go online to thecongress.com and you got to copyright your book. And when you copyright your book, that's somewhere, I think, for one copyright with one person on the book, that is $35. And I think with two is 85. Now, some people say there's a way you can actually put the manuscript in an envelope, address it to yourself, send it back to yourself, and don't open it. Now, I don't know if that is a cheap way or what, and I don't know if it's legitimate in case you're in a battle legally for describing the fact that you are the owner of that particular manuscript. Now, I think my very first piece that I wrote was for Dr. Martin Luther King's Day, and I wrote a speech on Dr. Martin Luther King. And I won the contest, and I had to go before the whole junior high school and read my poem. I don't even remember what I wrote now, but I said, oh boy, I can't do that again. I won't be able to write. And I never picked up the pencil to do any writing other than writing for my classes. I love doing reflections. I have a whole collection of reflection of my days in grad school and how I reflected on all of the topics that we talked about. So I'm going to publish that as well, my reflections. What happened in grad school? How did I feel about going back to school for English as a second language, a second time for a second endorsement? I had already had a master's, but I wrote about the reflection. You need to write about everything. I write about everything. I used to keep a diary. And I actually have written about my diary. I have a collection of audios where I've written about what started me to writing when I was 14 years old, and I had a diary that I own. And I use that diary primarily to talk about the letters that I received from my boyfriend while he was in the diary, and I use it to sort out how I felt about him away in Vietnam and being in the army. So that diary started me to write, and I began to write my memoirs of my life based on that diary and how it actually initiated the process in me to start writing. And I kept that diary till I was fully grown at the age of 48 while overseas, and I left it in Germany. And I felt so bad about leaving that diary because it was the thing that sparked me to write. And I knew I had other stories to write about. And even my son, my youngest son, became a writer. He started writing about his favorite cars, how to shop on eBay, all these things. And I said, my God, he's only um, in 10th, 11th grade. He's writing about all these complex things. And I saw that he was very good typing and had a high speed of typing. I said, well, maybe some of his things should be published. Then he wrote a memoir of what he felt while overseas and looking at the traumas that we went through as if we were actually in the military on the front line. And I told him, I said, you need to publish all of these. But there's a writer in all of us, and we tell our stories every day. And I told my son, I said, look, you've been through something, my oldest son. And I said, you have an audience that want to hear what you have to say as a basketball star. Being on an undefeated team, having to come off the team because we lost logistics, being able to go to a university and play ball, and then having to sit the bench and being the youngest rookie on the team where you couldn't get any play time. You have something to write about. Write about your experience in basketball. So I began to collect documentation of his basketball. He had to shoot 22 points in every game in order to be on the starting lineup. I said that was a miracle within itself. And then being on an overseas team with the United States Army and military undefeated, I said you can go into schools, you can mentor young children and get them to understand that all ball players don't get picked up. Only 7% out of all the people who apply get to become a professional. You were a professional, son. You played overseas for the Germans. You had a membership with the Germans to play with grown men when you were just a high school 12th grader. So you have made some inlays. Now let's talk about them. So I got him to agree to talk about them. So we began to collect his data. And lo and behold, he was a drafting, I think he was in graphic and design. And he had created some of the outstanding exhibits of art. I wasn't surprised because in his earlier days as a kindergarten, his work was put on display for one of the most influential artists of kindergarten all throughout the library. So when I saw his work, I said, oh my God, this is good. And he took photographs of himself and he distorted them as if he was coming apart. I came up with a title and said, why don't we call it I Come Apart? Which is what we all do. At one point in our life, we all come apart. Some of us don't get the glory of putting ourselves back together, but you did, son. Even though you weren't able to stand up against the fact that the military disallowed our students to continue to go on in their school district, but we had to petition them and we won. So you have some accomplishments. And as I tell him about the stories, it's not so hard to swallow him being out his final year and at the last minute being put back in school and them taking away the title to be the most exonerated group of young boys who played basketball for the military and for the military schools overseas. So, yes, he has a story to write. And we're working on that. And we're looking at how we can take those pictures and make them the front cover and describe what transpired when he could no longer play basketball. And I told you that so that when you read about the story, it'll be real to you. I'm a realist, and I believe the best thing that we can write about are situations that happen to us personally. And when we share them with our counterpart, they read them with some urgency and some kinship. So in my writings, the poetry comes when I'm settling my spirit or when there's an issue that I want to sort out. However, I will be writing my memoirs of my life story as well as the testimony of the real Sister Soldier and my time and experience overseas while working for the United States Army. Oh, yes, I must write about that. But once again, being a self published author would allow me to insert all those things that I think that are necessary. Now, we talked about venue, making sure you find and select the right venue. I know I'll be writing about self help, poetry, and families. Those are my main, and spiritual, possibly, because the initiate could be a part of a spiritualist book as well, introducing the spirituality of the traditional African spiritualists. Now, um, the other good things are is that when you look at lulu.com, lulu.com has a community of writers where you could take advantage of talking to those writers and attending seminars and getting some tidbits and getting some of their gems and jewels and learning from them rather than to make mistakes. There's a lot of mistakes that are made when you're trying to upload. You mustn't try to format yourself. It's too much for you to be editing and looking for mistakes. It's better after you've done your sweep of editing to find someone to edit. There are places online that you can actually allow them to bid for your job, and they can bid for your job. You come up with the amount that you want to pay. And it's better to pay somebody that can quickly get the job done and pay them a large amount than someone who charges less amount and takes a longer time. Time is of essence for you. So you want to find someone that's skilled, that has editing experiences, and that can do the work fast. Not only an editor that can edit a paperback book, you want them to be able to format for you your ebook as well as your paperback book. And now they've gone on to offer you audio. And there's a bit of a business in the audio where people would want to read someone else's memoirs or their books and record it. But I choose to read my own book because then they can hear from the author. Now, they will pay you a small fee for reading, but you have to be very careful because sometimes you have to redo that quite a bit. But if you read directly from your book and you are using your own voice, you're more likely to get it right the first time around and you can get it on publishing. But you cannot do the audio book until you've actually uploaded the paperback book. Okay, because they want to see that you have a paperback book that is on file through Amazon and they can locate it. They've done some grand things with writing now. I'm more excited about writing than I ever have been. With the ability to upload the document, to upload your PDF file and switch it over to a Word document. And then they even have templates when you can bring your contents and have a sample of it, and they have a layover of their table of contents to tell you which areas that you need to fill in. That is great. And not to mention the fact that you can now share, you can actually do discounts and sales. You can put your book on sale. You can even do a pre-order. You can have people pre-order your book before it's launch, giving you enough time to do a press release. I know all about press release because I've had them done on me. And some of these people who are selling the package, they're saying, "Oh, we're going to get you ready on TV and press release." I said, "Thank you very much. I'm so obliged. I can get myself radio time easily. I've been on many radio stations and I have one of my own. But I also like to let you know that a press release, you should have one written up and get that prepared for when you're going to release your book and talk about yourself and build yourself up and build the book up and then produce it and send it to the press and have it released in a newspaper, letting them know where to meet you at and when you're going to have book signings. Now, I didn't get a chance to have book signing with my first book. When Lulu asked me to come up with a price, it was foreign for me. I wasn't certain. I didn't want to price it too high, but I did. I priced it too high, and it wasn't being looked at. It was lost because people weren't looking for books that were $16. They were looking for books that were much cheaper. I went back, revamped it, and changed the amount. And now that's what prompted me to come back out again because I'm going to be marketing my poetry. I feel that I write about things that are real. People enjoy listening to my comical side and my poetry because I tend to be a bit of a storyteller in the poems. So I do want women to listen to my poems and I want them to aspire to be poets themselves. I don't write about all this provocative and sexual and sensual. I'm just not that kind of person. Bedroom issues should stay in the bedroom, not out in the forefront. You know, we looked at Jill Scott when she was performing, and there was a big ruckus about that, and I was like, that was the wrong venue, wrong platform. But nevertheless, I enjoy writing, and as you can see, my websites are up all over the place. Lilly Institute for Exceptional Education is up now. Willie Institute for Exceptional Education.weebly.com. That is a family resource center with tons of things for educators and parents. Go out on that site and visit it. One of the things I want to make it workable, I do have a blog there. I'm going to be featuring my book, and you'll be able to download the book there and have a shopping cart and do some shopping in the store. Um, I have a website that is montoenterprise.biz. And that is a workable website for my artistry side with the drums on it. It's going to be featured songwriters, poets, priestesses, and there's a shopping store there called God's Wear, where you can add, well, actually, it's called African Apparel is the name of the store, but the clothing is called God's Wear. And there will be tons of clothing that we've designed that features God and that uplifts Mantu. Mantu is the God that lives in you and I. And we have AreThe that lives with us, so there'll be a smaller segment of AreThe, and that is the God with the big head full of wisdom as well. So I have a creative mind. I want this thing to be a legacy that I can leave my children, and that these websites are functional websites where you are actually able to and sell. The apparel stores, the African apparel stores came to me when I wanted to do African products. There will be all African products, something we can't get our hands on. I don't want the everyday, all day things that we can get, but some of the African fabric that we cannot find, they jack it up so high we can't afford it. I've actually found a place that will allow us to purchase African fabric at a discount price. And then we're going to have seamstresses that make themselves available that work from their home that might want to create these garbs for you so that you can buy the fabric and then proposition someone that will take time that will make you African outfit. We're going to really push this because we want to see us do for self and buy from ourselves. This will be little villages over in Africa that will be able to write their love song because they're getting paid for the fabrics that they produce, and that those funds can go back to Africa. So on this website, I have proposed uh, groups of people who would like to sing Creole reggae, gospel reggae, to get in contact with me because we are going to be doing little live venues from our own home where we can be featured in a Zoom with us singing together. Now, I think we need to preserve Creole music. I think we need to preserve our folklore music, our traditional gospel folklore music, and we need to also bring secular into the picture so we come up to the 21st century. So I'm really into music and singing and understanding instruments and talking about how instruments can soothe our heart. I love the violin and the clarinet. I played the clarinet. My sister was a violinist. I want to learn more about the violin because I took Suzuki, and my son, I entered him in Suzuki, and my son, older son, was viola. And I have pictures with engaged in music. I didn't have my violin at the time, but I intend to get an electric violin and learn how to play that scat and that skittle because that music soothes me. It is very, very much a sedative. And once again, do we publish, self-publish, or do we allow a publisher to take our assignment? What are the benefits? Well, one of the benefits, like I told you, they can get you a gig on the radio. And if you don't have access to a radio, you will need some interviews and some exposure. They can also do your press release and allow you to do a book signing. And they can go at the universities and get you an assignment to go in to sell your books or to lecture about yourself in the book. And for new authors, you need that. Now, I feel like I'm not a new author anymore because I have a book that is published. And if I had to go anyway, I'd go self-publishing and I would rough it through because there's certain things that they just don't want you to do that they're hellbound set on and you have to go along with their program. Number one, they want to offer you a big package up front with all these unnecessary things and fees to go with them. And you might not have $900 laying around, or you might not have $1,900 laid around, even with the discount. And they offer you these astronomical discounts that you think that are big, but once they average them in and figure it out, then you find out you're not getting that much of a discount. Now, you want to be a generous writer. You want to give things away. You want to have contests. I have a membership on my website. And my membership on the website will allow people to come at a basic fee of zero. If you're a basic member, you don't get a chance to go behind door number 2 and 3. You don't get to see the wizard. You only get to tittle around with some of the mechanism. But those who are paying $3 and $9, they get to go. Well, actually, I have a $3 $6 and a $9, and then there's a basic that's $4. So the people that are paying the $3, $6, and $9 membership, it goes for the production of the paper. I don't make a profit off of membership like that unless I'm going to have millions of people join. So it's not meant to be a money maker, but it's meant to get you into literary writing and listening to stories and plays. I am also a voiceover where I do participate in playwrights. I played the part of Mama in a Chicago play. I love theatrical drama. And not the kind of drama that people bring you. No, no, no. Don't bring me none of that. I'm not a garbage pail. Don't dump over here. But I love theatrical drama and music. So we are going to be looking for voiceover readers to read parts of plays that we want to enact, where they can go and interact with people. If they're writers, they can get the job done by looking for independent contractors who will take the bids, and that's on the family website. However, on the music website, we are going to be looking at the membership where you can come and you will be able to download some of the poetry. Some of my poetry is getting put to music, so it's going to be like a CD of music. I have one cut on there, I'll Be Brief, and one of my parents put it to music in a saxophone, and it's sharp, and you've heard it before. Um, I do sing on the introduction part of the Journey of the Class Agent. I sing the Lady Day song, Billie Holiday. And I didn't have anybody to back me up, so I said I'll do an a cappella. Now, should you self-publish yourself? And what are the benefits? Now, the benefits is that you don't have to split your money with anyone. But as long as you have a publisher that allowing you to park your book on their shelf on demand. It used to be a time we had to put all these books in our garage and had to figure out who's going to ship what and who pays what taxes. And at the end of the year, we got to figure out how much you made, and then you don't want to cheat the government. And the other thing, number one, you must first see yourself as a corporation. Don't just become a sole proprietor when you become a publisher. Become an LLC or C Corp, S Corp, because the government recognizes real corporation, not a sole proprietor. Because then you have to separate your personal income from your business income. And that can be a problem at the end of the year. So you want to structure yourself as an entity right up front. Even on Amazon, they ask you, how do you get your taxes? Do you get them in the name of your company or do you get them in your personal name? And if you don't have a name, go and create a name and go online to IRS and register that name to make sure nobody else is using it and allow them to give you an EIN number. Now, most people say, I don't have the $90. Then you can go sole proprietor temporarily until you get the $90. And once you get the $90, go back and upgrade yourself to an LLC, where you now have the right to write off a portion of your room where you're doing your writing. You can write off a portion of your car expenses for repairs, and you can write off your workshops, your purchasing of educational materials, and your seminars and workshops that pertain to your book. If you're going to a webinar, all those things are write-offs, and that gives you a chance to reduce your taxes and gives you hopefully a refund back. That's the whole purpose of becoming a corporation or an LLC. Now, you want to make sure that you are going to workshops and you find somebody you can believe in and start going to their seminars and symposium and be a real professional. Don't just sit in there and watch TV. Whenever you have the nerve to write a book, you get up and write. Work on your craft every day. I'm grinding every day on my craft. Okay, I have a whole collection of curriculum material that I put together under the Parent Information Center because that's why I am marketing my material under the venue of family, because this will address the issue of parent information centers who are looking to get started. The training I have is a foundational kit that will help them get started and learn about the venues out there and where they can get the material to get their parent resource center set up. So I have a whole training that it's taken me over, what now, I'll say over 15 years, I know, to put all this training together. So that training is going to be available on the Lilly Institute for Exceptional Education, weebly.com, so that you could go and purchase this material and walk yourself through how to set up a parent information center. And we're also going to have co-parenting resolution training that will be available through Dr. Kermit, Professor Kermit, who partnered with me on the co-parenting training because I wanted parents trained who have to meet the requirement of the course system where they must take parenting training upon completing a divorce. So they learn how to parent singly all over again. So we have that parenting information, and parents can purchase that particular tool to complete those classes independently online as well. Now, the reason why I'm so much for family is because anything you do family style is lasting. And I am not for every woman being the head of the household. I don't like it one bit. And I never liked it when I had to be a head of the household. I found a deficit. I found that I was hemorrhaging and a portion of me had been severance, and I needed to have sutures because I was still bleeding as well because a portion of me was gone. I wish that every woman had a male in the household or a significant other to complement her, because that's how God does it. He does it on a family style. And we've got to get used to saying that that is a proper way and not let people tell us, oh, it's okay to be the head of the household. Not all the time, because you're still out searching for a man and wishing a man would come and take you away and marry you. And ultimately, some people say it's not for everyone. I think marriage is for everyone. Appropriation is for all of us because God told us to subdue the earth and multiply. And you can't subdue this earth and multiply being a single woman, because you'll end up just like those mothers who are waiting for the EBT cards trying to feed all those children and not knowing who the daddy is. You need one man that you're cohabitating with, not many. And I'm going to just say that, like it or not. But it's very valuable that we create a literacy program. I have a literacy where everyone reads in the family. No one leaves home before they can read. And that's my slogan. All of us knew how to read before we left home. Going to kindergarten or not, we could phonetically blend. We knew how to read those words, and we knew those books and those words in the back of the book because those were high frequency words, and we were responsible for remembering them and sounding them out as well, decoding them and encoding them. And you got a lot of excuses why Johnny can't read. Hell, if you didn't send Johnny off to school not knowing how to read, you wouldn't have to worry about it. His first lesson from a teacher wasn't from his school teacher. His first lesson was from his mother. Mothers, you're the first teachers. Be the one that first teach the child how to read. I'm going to be advocating that women come to my center and get the kit on Baby Can Read. You can teach your baby to read and start teaching your baby to read as a toddler. Don't wait till they get ready to go to kindergarten and come out. Oh, they want to flunk little Juju. He gonna be held back. He can't remember his high frequency word, and he sure don't know his flash word. What am I gonna do? He can't remember the main books that they reading, like Snow White and Little Riding Hood. Yes, because all these things you can get a list of. What are the requirements for a kindergarten child to transition out to first grade? You can have that child ready for kindergarten before he get there. And your preschoolers could be sounding out and reading flashcards at the age of 3 and 4 year olds. I had 3 and 4 year olds in my class, and they were reading along with the 5 year olds. Whatever you see the 5 year olds doing, the 3 year olds gonna mimic them. So what am I saying? I'm saying that we need to have institutions built. And one of the reasons I decided to become a publisher is because I wanted my institution to be available to families to learn about early literacy, learning about the magical books that will come alive for their children. So you can go to this website. Yes, this is a part of my publishing agency as well. And the membership, I'm very generous to give as much as I can. And it's better to give than to receive. And I know this, it'll come back to you. So having a website is vital. I have three of them. I have a website that features my book working on now that I'm so feverishly trying to upload. And I fear that I'm going to have to go and edit it and put it on my Google Drive and then transport it over for editing and then upload it. And then after I get this one taken care of, then I can easily put my poetry books on there and fly right through that because poetry is a certain format and you want to make sure that you are with the right company. Now, Amazon is the number one company out there, and like it or not, they have taken over Creative Space. Creative Space is gone, it's no more. Lulu's been out there and they've been trucking. Now, let me talk about the money, the royalties, and that's something you probably want to hear about. I've been a creature of royalties for a long, long time. When I was overseas, I received royalties, and asked me then if I knew how they were calculated. I didn't. And I was a little afraid to ask, how did I earn this money? And what did you calculate it on? But now I'm a lot smarter than that. I just took the money and ran then. But now I'm much smarter than that. You have to make sure you have the right venue so your book can be seen and be in demand. And you have to learn how to move your book up the ladder. I didn't know those things. I was learning. But the money, they split the money, and if I'm not mistaken, Amazon is a 70-35 plan. You can go for 35% of your book or 70%. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the way they set this up, you can have coupons where you can have your book on sale. You can give your book away for the first week until that ends at the end of the week. Then you've actually exposed yourself to a lot of people. But now people are talking about it, so you got many other people now that are willing to pay for it. That's a good venue. And then you have coupons where you can have a sale every other day, okay, and or 2 days a week. And that'll get the people eager to want to buy your book and try to buy during the sale periods. You can have a pre-sale. You can pre-order your books before it's even launch to scheduled to launch, and you can sell all the books you want. And then on the day that is scheduled to launch, you have them all come or go online, and they can actually receive the book because it'll be finished by then. It doesn't even have to be finished, just thought of and in the mindset. See how good these people have gotten? You can just create in your mind, well, I'm going to write about this, I'm going to create this page, and then you can write the whole description up and do the cover page like I did, and then you get people excited about the book. But you always should have your manuscript finished. My manuscript is finished. Some people may not even have a manuscript finished. They figure they'll write as they go. I couldn't chance that, so I have a manuscript finished. I just have to go and edit and do a couple of tweaks here and there. And voila, the book could be printed tomorrow. It's uploaded. Now, making sure that you format your book is very important, because if your book is the least bit off, it's going to discredit you and it will not measure up. Because when you do an ebook, it has to be formatted a certain way. So therefore, you may want to launch you an actual person who would be willing to sell their work to do a formatting for you, and you can purchase their time, and they can actually accept the bid and put a bid in for your work. Now, you have to be generous now. You're going to have to look for these people that can edit your book. I know you have a good seeing eye. You can find mistakes, but you can't always see all your mistakes. Always get a good editor to go over your work. And it'll be less mistakes for them because you've already looked at it. But then you had a trained eye to go over it and someone to format it. And especially someone you want to ask them, can you format an ebook? Because don't assume that they're formatting that paperback book that they can format an ebook. There is an art and skill to formatting an ebook, and you can get the ebook on there and learn it yourself. But because you still wait, you don't have enough time now, and you primarily want to get started with this thing, you definitely don't want iPods and our laptops. We can go anywhere on the beach and we can write. And we don't have to be stuck in a stuffy old house. There are many writing clubs that do. There are millionaires that are writing. There's a writer in every one of us. That means there's a millionaire in all of us. If we write to our passion, we can become millionaires. And I see it now. And someone once told me potential becoming a writer. So I pursued it and I perfected and I worked and worked. And I'm not the best speller in the world. Sometimes I have to go back and catch my own errors. But I do love the writing and I have a passion for it. That is what makes me a good writer because I have a passion for it and I love to use creativity in advancing on the topics. So I love family. So I know family is a venue. You must choose a venue, and it could be self help. It could be love stories. It could be what have you. But you have to also go and research those areas which are in demand, so you know that your book is going to become a number one seller someday. I know the book I'm working on now is going to become a number one seller. I've had calls after calls of publishers asking if they could publish my book. They've seen the cover of it and they know it's a controversial issue and they figured that they would like to be the ones to publish it. Now, if I don't get it up on this website soon, I'm going to take it down and then I am going to go with Lulu and I'll self publish it. Lulu believed in me when I first started, and I have a lot of faith in Lulu. However, Lulu does allow you to self-publish, and they do have an agency that will offer you a package which you don't want to purchase, which is too expensive. For me, it was. Now, the pros and cons again. That is one of the pros when you are a self-publisher. You can go out and you can assess the market for your own editor that will work with you. And if you want to have illustrations that are unique and you want a certain package for your cover, then you can find your own illustrator and create your books. What you don't want to do is come off to be an amateur and have imperfections in your book. Be a critic of your own book and know that if there's imperfection, you take it back to the drawing board. You just don't put it on the market knowing that there's imperfection. Now, that's why you have that second eye to look over your work. So the pros and cons of being a self-publisher would be that you can go out there and shop around for the person that you want to actually format your book and edit your book. Now, what are the benefits? The benefits is that you can go on television. Your book can even go into a series, or it can even be on a television series if you are a good enough writer. You can actually have some of your poetry can go into spoken word or jingle. I even created a ringtone with one of my particular singles. And I know it's a pretty good marketer, and I've actually put music behind it, and I intend to make it an app for a jingle. So there's jingles, for a ringtone. So you can do things like that with your poetry when you're a writer. So that's an advantage. Now, you must remember that when a publisher holds the rights in the ISBN number, they literally, sometimes they won't let you go. I think Amazon, once you publish with them and an ebook, you can't go publish anywhere else. I'm not certain how that works, but you got to be very careful because some of these publishing companies hold you to only publishing your things on their site. And you want to be able to take that material and go somewhere else and publish it independently under your own ISBN number. Now, remember I said there's a copyright. You must get a copyright for your written material, your audio material, and your wireless material. It must be copywritten so that no one comes back and try to steal it. All right. and you go first to the RSI to the go first online to I can't even think. Go first online to actually register your name. And when you go on .gov to register your name, making sure nobody else has it, you also register your name for an ISBN number, not an ISBN number, for your EIN number. And then once you get your EIN number, you should have gone to the bank before that and open up a bank account so that you have an account to put your company's name in. You can come up with a fictitious name. They're going to research it and see if it's still available. Now, in the meantime, you want to go over to GoDaddy. Don't forget GoDaddy. GoDaddy can give you an actual phone number for your company, and GoDaddy can give you your own independent email. Okay, and they have some trial periods for the first 7 to 30 days, and you can utilize that, and it'll give you your own website and your mobile website on the phone. So GoDaddy is very good for that, and I've just learned about GoDaddy, and I'm exercising using their tools so that I can get my own email and website and mobile app as well as my website. Now, I like to say for the record that publishing with a big publishing company where they actually, if you're just doing poetry, you don't need a big publishing company to come and take your work and do it. You just make sure you have it formatted properly and give your dedications to the people you dedicate the book to, and also have the author's page with your copyright on it. Those are some things I didn't know at first. And sometimes you want to pull the book back and go back and add those things because you want a table of content. And I'm now feeling poetry needs to be descriptive with some type of artifact on the page to keep your eye moving and using creativity to sense how that writer was thinking when they wrote that poem. I want to do some sketches and illustrations in those poems because they all talk about a story and they all equate to a story. And writing can be fun on your most hectic day when you sit down and you want to write a piece. The way I write is I always start with the audio. I have tons of audios of my books and stories. I start with the audio and I record. That way I don't forget the thought. It stays with me and I number that and put a description on it. So when I get ready to pull it, I can pull it and then go to the typewriter or computer and write. I love Dragon Naturally Speaking because you can speak right into your microphone and tell Dragon Naturally Speaking to memorize your voice, get to know your voice, and you get accustomed to him hearing your voice. Then he begins to start typing what you say. And you can use that to get something on the page. And I know there's many other softwares out there that do the same thing. The main thing you want to know is that you can get the message out. And then you can always go back over it and edit it. And they may leave out some words, but you can fill those words in. At least something is on the paper. Being a good writer means that you would like to write night and day and get into blogs. I got into blogs. I didn't really market my blogs, but I was writing about a particular topic. I wanted to intrigue teachers to get involved in writing and giving their input. So one of the things I say is that there is a 50-50 chance that when you first start, you're not going to know all these things. So therefore, you might need a publisher to help you along the way. Or if you don't have the money for that and you're just doing, trying your hand at writing, then self-publish because you can always republish that book. You can go on Amazon and connect that book and go back and re-update that book under the same name, but slightly change something in the name. But there's always something in the name, is what I've been trying to proclaim. That's one of my poems too. But I wanted to say to you that there are more self-publishers out here nowadays, and everybody's got a mission and a story to tell. I get a little eerie when I see these women that create these novels. I was like, oh my God, how did she get over 100 and some odd pages? But I really get excited when I see these women's imagination run wild and they have series after series and continuations. I want a story like that, the never ending story, and have a collection called the never ending story and have one uh, section to the next. And each fall, you can predict what's going to come out. And all you do, instead of creating new concept and new material, you just continue from the threads of that story using some of the same characters and introducing new ones. So I am a creature of film and theater. I love film and theater. I once had a very good companion and friend who was into theater and who was into filmmaking, and he was very good at it. So I learned a lot from him, and we were able to put together the Nina Simone series where we introduced Nina Simone's music, and I was broadcasting, and I brought a lot of other hip hoppers and singers and poets in, and I infiltrated their particular shows in between Nina Simone. I still have those videos, and one of the young ladies was she was deaf and she could not speak, and she had a translator, and I just featured her on my Facebook. And I wanted to also say that you must look at why distribution. Who's going to distribute your book? Is Barnes and Noble? Is Walmart? Um, where will you see your book at? One of the most important things to do if you an educator and you're a teacher and you want to get into these schools, it would be wise to get a list of all of the brick and mortar libraries in the schools and get their names and address and send them a free copy of your book or send them a discount card where they can purchase your book at a discount and ask them to invite you in to talk to the children about your book. And that's why I'm hurrying now because I want to get into my series of the Lily Pod group so I can start doing children's book and get into the libraries of the public schools. With so many of our public schools that are gone now, we need a truck that drives around with books in it so our children can continue their literacy search and start reading about higher literacy and developing their love for reading. But we cannot do that. One of the other programs I have for those males who don't get a chance to get in on the deal is the literacy coaches so that they can go in, introduce the books to the Child Development Center and go in and use their skill as a literacy coach. I was once a literacy coach, and before the program got up and running, they lost money, and I didn't get a chance to go into the child care centers like I wanted to, but that's coming too. Now, I'm saying all that to say that you can develop your writing skills. Everybody is not born into being a writer. You have to develop your writing skills, and when you keep at it, you get to be good at it. The tendency to look up what are the rules on this and grammatically and those kind of things. But if you start speaking grammatically correctly, it'll help you to write grammatically correctly. And I know that writing part of me, and I could probably make millions, millions. And every woman, there is $1 million woman, $1 million book. I believe that she's writing about something that's passionate, and I'm going to be writing about this. So move over. Omi's on her way out there, and I've already talked about publishing, becoming a publishing press agency, and getting my materials out there. I've had them on the shelf too long. I've already videotaped those things, but that it's time for them to come off the shelf, and it's time for them to be on the market now. And I thank you so much for listening to me. And overall, the pros and cons of self-publishing will outweigh letting the publishing big agency give you a deal. Because sometimes they will provide you with the money up front. Now, even after you are already self-published and someone likes it, can come back to you as a big publishing agency and buy your book from you and give you forwarding money up front to pay for your book. We're a self-publisher. At that point, you're bought out by a big publishing agency. That can happen as well. Now, the biggest thing is you got to have character behind you. You got to have a story to tell. Because when you go on these radio shows, they don't want to hear all about your book. They want to know that you're a real person and they want to know the struggles in your life and how you manage to advance yourself to a level where you can sit long enough. A lot of people have their stories boggled down in their mind and they can't get them out on paper. But those of us who can get them, I would like to take. Some of you saw me in the hotels, and it was like a perpetual vacation. I was writing then, and just where am I going to find this house at, or am I going to buy it and write something down? It kept my head clear. So I want to help you get your head a vacation time for yourself. Before you start writing, plan to go out and get a membership at one where you can earn points. So periodically, you go back to that hotel, sit up in bed all night while you trying to figure out what you're going to write about. And you do have to come away from home sometime and have a little area or favorite place that you like to go to do your writing. And once you discover what you're passionate about and you continue a series on it, I guarantee you somebody that will make a whole lot of money. Now, I was told that I was supposed to be rich doing this. Maybe my time has come. I don't know. But nevertheless, I'm going to continue to remain passionate about putting my craft uh, out there and putting the pen to the metal. Sometimes I notice I can be an abundant giver where I write too much, how to hold something back for the next page or the next book. So until next time, follow me on this particular YouTube channel, and you're going to hear more about the publishing house and the press publishing house, and you're going to hear more about those books coming on the market. Maybe you might be one of the ones that will pre-order my out. And most of you might have already gotten that little gift and the cover of the book and a little advertisement about who I am and why I write. So if you have, share it with somebody else. That's another thing. With Amazon, they have a program set up where and Lulu pays a lot more. Lulu's on their paperback book, and I think 90% on their ebook. So Lulu will give out more money. And you have to look at how you're going to calculate how much you're going to make off these books. So you have to know if you're headed for the #1 publishing spot and how do you get in that spot. And that's what you push for. Now, as I was saying, that you have to make sure that about things that you're passionate about, and you have to make sure your venues are open for you so you can also have your book go overseas and you can market it there, and they can even change it to a foreign language and you can make proceeds from overseas while you're here in the States. So there's so much out there now. Amazon has created this program where after you purchase your book, you can actually loan it out to somebody else, and then it comes back to you for 14 days, and they get to get it for free. And sometimes you think that's bad because they're not going to buy the book, and and then maybe nobody else want to buy it because they keep passing it around. But 9 times out of 10, it keeps your percentage up. It allows you to be 70%. Don't allow your book to be leased out, then you can only take, I think, 30%. So the procedures and gimmicks, and I got to get familiar with all of them. So be patient with me as I explore the Amazon, the KDP, the Kindle, understanding the Lulu, and Create Space is no longer there. So we're going to be missing Create Space. But nevertheless, I thank you so much, and stay tuned because you're going to be hearing more from me on the publishing process and which is the better route to go. What are the pros of going self-published opposed to going with an agent? Now, do you need a literary agent? Should you have a literary agent? We're going to be talking about that too. And we're going to get into this publishing so it'll help me get the right stuff spirit to get on with writing this word, the tools that you use with it. I know that the PDF file, they kept saying it takes a PDF file, and then come to find it needed to be converted over to Adobe Word. So I'm more familiar with all of these translated softwares and understanding how they work. I do say I have to get on top of that. And once I get on top of that, it is on, ladies and gentlemen. It is on because we're going to be looking at contests, opportunities for writing, and pushing young people to engage in in their craft. So I say thank you so much and do look forward to seeing me again. I'll be back at you in a minute. So go down below, press the bell so you'll know here. Ring ding ding, ring my bell, ring a ding a ding. Won't you ring my bell? Ring a ding a ding, ring my bell, and become a subscriber and follow me. Put your statements up on the screen and make comments. My name is Omi Inca Production Studio. That's because I'll be doing recording and production of books. So, nevertheless, be a follower and subscribe. I'll see you soon as my new subscriber. Oh, Davo, Baba Boy to you.